Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievance. Good evening, my name is Jasmina COF, and my topic today is the First Amendment of the American Constitution. The First Amendment is far more effective if it's treated as a loose construction rather than a strict construction. Loose construction means flexibility on the words that are used on the First Amendment, compared to strict construction, which means as is, what is the words written must be followed under the Constitution. So if the First Amendment is treated as a strict construction, imagine all the rights that are not mentioned in the First Amendment, which means like there's no guarantee of rights for all American citizens, even though we have the Constitution that says we have the right to do whatever we want, freedom of speech and freedom of that. And this is the reason why the Ninth Amendment was created. The Ninth Amendment said, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Basically, it means that any rights that's not mentioned in the First Amendment is covered. So, what is exactly like a right? Take, for instance, the word religion. Religion can mean a lot of things. The word religion means it's a system of belief, value, or practice. It's also belief, like you have a spiritual leader or a higher supreme being. But the word belief also means that you don't have to have a spiritual leader or don't have a supreme being. So if all the words like religion is treated as a strict construction, the word religion, if a person who doesn't have any religion, means that they are violating the First Amendment just because they don't have to believe like in spiritual leaders or supreme being. And this is the reason why loose construction must be followed to approach the First Amendment. Also, Congress said that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, which means that everybody has the freedom to choose whatever religion that they want. Also, loose construction gives flexibility on the, to freedom of religion and to the clause of the First Amendment, which is separation between church and state. Loose construction gives at least like for everybody to celebrate like Christmas and Thanksgiving. Now those holidays are based on religious events, but at least like for anyone who's non-Christian get to have like a break from school or work without celebrating or actually practicing Christmas or Thanksgiving if they don't believe in it. As for the word speech, what is a speech? Well, under loose construction, it can mean a lot of things. It can mean that the word speech can be like a form of written words, symbols, and artworks. A perfect example would be the Chicago 7 case, and this was way back in 1969 to 1970. This case happened just because when the Vietnam War was going on and everybody was going out in the streets chanting against the government that they said they want peace, not war. Well, they were arrested, and just because the police said that they don't have the right to have the words that they want to preach in words like written in banners or anything like symbols for hippies, even like this sign at all, is not considered freedom of speech. Good thing for them, they have a very good lawyer who took their case all the way to the United States Supreme Court, and he said that symbols and artworks, even like anything words written in a banner, are considered freedom of speech. And that's where like ever since like the First Amendment was written, like 1700s, all the way to 1970s, the Ninth Amendment came into place, connecting or binding to the First Amendment, saying that the right of symbols, artworks, and like written words are loose construction to the First Amendment. Also, another example is Proposition 8 that's going on right now. Of course, gay people have the right to live and do whatever they want. After all, it's like a belief that also says with the First Amendment. But here comes the the slippery slope situation. It's so controversial that they had to put this issue into ballot, and the majority of people have spoken that they are against gay marriage. Now, voting is another form of speech, and therefore, ever since 2008, even to this day, the judges of the California Supreme Court never said that Proposition 8 is unconstitutional, and that's the reason why they still keep on going and going. After all, the preamble to the Constitution says, "We the people of the United States," not "we the judges" or "we the politicians of the United States." The First Amendment was obviously not perfect, as mentioned by one of the authors of the Constitution. So I'm going to end my speech with his excerpt of his letter to the address to the delegates back in 1778. And it says, "I have experienced many instances of being obliged by better information or fuller consideration to change opinions, even on important subjects, which I once thought was right, but found to be otherwise. It is therefore that the older I grow, the more apt I am to doubt my own judgment and to be more respectful to the judgment of others." Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't look down at the time on that. What was the time?
About 15 seconds over.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jasmina, you identified the topic at the beginning, and you've got this explanation of what loose construction is versus strict construction. None of that seems to be a very clear legal interpretation, and I'm sure that there are legal scholars that would explain what the strict constructionist position is and contrast it with the loose construction position that you're taking. And I think that it seems strange that we don't get any source citation on this. This seems like it's sort of your interpretation of what's going on as opposed to a scholarly interpretation, and I think you need some data on that. The contents of the speech are partially previewed. It sounds like you're going to be focusing on the First Amendment, but it's not always about the First Amendment. I'm still not clear how Proposition 8 fits under this concept, unless you're saying that gay positions or gay relationships are under a loose construction something that would be protected because they are the equivalent of a religion, and that doesn't seem to be the inference that you're making. If it is, that needs to be a heck of a lot clearer. I'm just not sure what the dispute is. If you've got a particular issue on which you think a loose construction is going to get us a more effective or a more productive outcome, I think it would be best if you focused on that. As it is, it seems highly abstract, the interpretation that you're taking in most of the argument. I didn't understand, for instance, the application to the holidays that you talked about. I guess the argument would be you're saying that we need a loose construction as opposed to a strict construction so that we protect people's rights to have access to holidays like Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter or something like that. Because if we had a strict construction, I guess the inference that you're making is that if we had a strict constructionist interpretation of this, that we couldn't have legal holidays for those purposes. I think that's what you're trying to infer, but you needed to say that, and it just feels, like I said, very abstract the whole time that you're talking about this, and I think that's problematic. I thought it was also problematic that I didn't get any source citations on any of the information you presented. In fact, at the very end, you've got one of the authors of the Constitution that you were citing. It suggests that they are critical of the First Amendment. By the way, in the quote, I never heard a reference to the First Amendment, just to their own ability to make a judgment. And I don't even know who that person was. You don't tell us who that person is. So how does it give us any credibility as to the application in this particular circumstance? I just found it way more confusing than it needed to be. And I think part of the problem is that instead of focusing on a particular issue on which strict construction or loose construction would make sense, you're just kind of keeping it at a very general level, and that becomes the problem here. All right, thank you.